and welcome to our community. Good morning. Susie Thomas with you this morning, and we're welcoming back our friend Deanna Wells. You know her from Committed to Care Insurance. She also heads up something called Health Care Freedom, and a completely different concept because we're not talking about health insurance this morning. We're talking about health sharing. You may have been hearing some things about health sharing and wonder, what is it? How is it different? Is it for me? And Deanna is here to answer all of our questions about that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Deanna, first of all, what is health sharing and how is it different from health insurance?
Okay. Well, health sharing is a group of like-minded people coming together and agreeing to share medical expenses for their community.
Let me just stop you right there. Are these people you know? Is this like you gather family and friends because you're like-minded, or is this something that's done through a company?
Well, it's actually there are organizations that come together, and so you are with like-minded, generally Christian is the issue, is that you're with a health sharing ministry. So it's like-minded people in faith, and there are agreements of your faith. Some are a little stricter than others, depending on which health sharing program that you go with, but it is not insurance. It is not backed by the Ohio Department of Insurance, so there is no guarantees in it, but the the difference between health sharing and insurance is that there is a promise to pay according to the organization's guidelines. So that promise to pay works very much, it's not a guarantee, and you have to make it very clear because insurance is a contract, therefore is a guarantee. Being a HealthShare member, you're working under the promise of the guidelines. Does that make sense?
It does. So let me make sure I'm understanding that. For example, let's say that a church all decided they were going to share one another's health expenses. And they say, because we are all, you say like-minded, I'm going to say basically they live in ways that are very healthy, that it would be very consistent with the Christian faith, that not to say if you smoke, you're not a Christian. But it's very consistent with the Christian faith to consider your body a temple and treat it likewise and not pump smoke through it. That's one of those things that maybe they say, okay, if we've got a group of non-smokers here, then probably your medical expenses are not going to be as much as if we had a group of smokers. And so why don't you all agree to share all of your medical expenses, and you divide it up between that whole church, and they're less. So am I understanding this concept right?
That is the concept. Just to go back to tobacco use, is that generally these groups will allow people that do tobacco use, but there will be an upcharge, so there's an additional charge.
Okay.
And there is an expectation by some of the groups, not all the groups, that they will assist you in the being able to quit smoking, by supplying you patches and that sort of thing. And it's sort of basically an expectation that in 1 year you will quit smoking, because they are really like-minded in healthy lifestyle. Because living a healthy lifestyle, as you said, with our bodies being our temple, is that does reduce the cost of medical expenses. Mm-hmm. So you do have to come into agreement that you're going to, as a like-minded group, live a healthy lifestyle, and it is generally a requirement by most of the programs to quit smoking within that first year.
Are there any other things that would be something that they would try to help you along with? Any other I'm thinking, what if I need to lose 5 pounds? Something like that.
Yes, is that, again, usually there is, not with all the groups, but usually there is an upcharge for issues such as weight, cholesterol, blood pressure, because what they do is they assign you a personal health coach that you work along with on a monthly basis to turn that around, so hopefully you're not on those maintenance medications. So just to kind of go back to your question before, and then we can move forward, because there's so much in this topic that we could talk about. Yeah. It could take more than an hour or more, and we don't have that kind of time, but is that you could liken it to like the Amish, the group of Amish people, that they share expenses, but you have a much bigger network because you're sharing with Christians across the United States. So that really is, it's more so than a church. It really kind of started out as particular churches, but then it grew and grew and grew. So it is actually probably one of the fastest growing programs out there due to our issues with health insurance. And it's just, unfortunately, continually getting worse because of the cost of increases and some things that are going on. And it was going to happen anyway. The health insurance industry, most people were not able to afford it with with the past. And now moving forward to the future, we're looking at 10 to 15 to 20% increases and changes in how those programs work for people. So alternatives to helping you fund your health care coverage, or I can't say the word coverage, your health care expenses.
Yes.
Looking for a way to help you alleviate some of those is a health sharing group is a great way to go, and it is more affordable than health insurance.
Well, and before we move on, more about like-mindedness is some people really object to the things that are covered in the traditional insurance, if you're going to the exchanges and so forth. Some very controversial things are covered, and that means that my premiums that I'm paying are covering things that I may not believe in at all. So is that another reason why people might decide to take a look at health sharing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it is driven by Christian faith, there are several things that are not shared that are part of your health insurance premium. And of course, the number one topic is abortion. So they do not share in abortion. Some groups will, if it's a life or death threatening situation, you have to look at the group guidelines. So if it's a life or death threatening situation for the mother, they could possibly share in that expense, but just for, no other reason, they definitely do not share in the abortions, nor do they share in the contraceptives.
The other thing that comes to mind is some things just don't make sense. For a 60-plus grandmother to have to pay premiums that would be covering maternity, don't plan on needing any maternity coverage in the future. And so it makes no sense to have premiums that are so high that they're trying to be one size fits all. And when you're talking about healthcare matters, one size never fits all. So it sounds like this might be a little more cherry picking the kind of, not coverage, but the kind of healthcare expenses that are more likely to come up for you, that this would be another reason to look at it. Am I getting this?
Yes, it is definitely, like I said, there's several groups out there. I just say that you should vet which group that you want to become a part of. And of course, the cost of the monthly share, because what's involved in when you become a member of this group, there's generally a membership fee to begin with. And, it's not too expensive. It ranges of $125 to $200 to become a member. And then you have a monthly share amount defined by the group. And it is age driven, but there are, some that it's just over the age of 30 up to age 60, up to 65 is one amount. So, you just have to look at what plan you want and what can you afford. But it is a program that is so affordable for people that are just looking for a way to alleviate catastrophic expenses.
Yes.
The key, though, is it's not for everyone. Pre-existing conditions in these programs are not shared. So if you have a serious illness, unfortunately,
this isn't the time to jump in and sign up for this.
If you get a serious illness during your membership, then it is completely shared.
Wow.
With the, there's amounts called annual unshared amounts or incident unshared amounts. That is likened to a deductible, but they call it unshared amount that you have to pay. And there's different ways that they do this.
Okay. It just sounds like, boy, get in on this while you're healthy, because this is amazing. And Deanna, you're talking about people from all across the country being involved. That must be a pretty good budget as far as the money available to cover everyone's health care expenses. Am I guessing right?
Well, yes, because you don't have just the Ohio pool. You have the pool of the 50 states. Now, some of them, I think there's a couple of states like Pennsylvania, they're a little bit shaky. There's about 2 or 3 states that do not recognize health sharing. But yes, you have a much bigger pool, sort of kind of like what's recently been proposed in legislation is be able to go across state lines.
Yes.
So with the health share, you already have that pool. You're just not dealing with the people in Ohio. I've worked with clients that are in Colorado. I've worked with clients in Virginia. I've worked with clients in Illinois. So I do have several people that I've helped understand this and helped pick a program that might work, very well for them. You just have to understand the guidelines, and that's what a conversation needs to be, is what is covered under their guidelines, what is shared under their guidelines. Goodness.
Different language than health insurance. I know the health sharing has completely different language because we're talking about a ministry. Some people listening are going to be raising the eyebrows and saying, this sounds too good to be true. Is this even legal?
Yes, and it is legal, and I have seen the documents from CMS, which is the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, that regulate the programs under the Healthcare Reform Act, the ACA. And because of it being a ministry and like-minded, ethically group of people, you file, it's an exemption. So you're not subject to the penalty, and there's a way that you just file your income tax that shows that you're part of this sharing group. And so this being part of a sharing group does give you the exemption from the penalty that currently exists for not having health care. So having health insurance.
Right. Does this make the government mad? Because you are not getting in on the exchanges, and I think they're losing out on a lot of healthy people that they were counting on to pay for everybody else's.
I would say it could very well. But
and do we care?
the exemption is there, and yes, it would sort of be, I guess you could also say, cherry picking, because this is an option for healthy people. And if you have minor things like the blood pressure and the cholesterol, it is definitely an option. It's just, unfortunately, people that have some serious illnesses may not be able to qualify. But I don't necessarily think that it's making them mad. I think it's making them raise an eyebrow and wondering, they might be doing something right. So maybe I have seen the way that they reimburse, how the health sharing is reimbursing doctors and hospitals, is that they're actually reimbursing them somewhat better than the health insurance companies, and they're very favorable to help take on health sharing customers, because our clients or patients, because they're getting paid quicker, more, and without less paperwork, not all that paperwork for the government. So the health providers are very happy to take a health sharing ministry person. And I'm starting to see actually the insurance companies switching their form of reimbursement to the same type of reimbursement that the health sharing groups have been using for quite a long time.
So little competition is not a bad thing.
No, never.
Very, very interesting. Okay, we're speaking with Deanna Wells, learning all about health sharing versus health insurance, traditional health insurance. I've got to take a short break. I knew this would go way too fast. You're listening to Our Community.